What's up, guys? Bringing you an Afterpulse video here. We're going to be talking about the differences between the Dragon series and the Jade weapon, the Jade series. And I just want to be clear, I do not know the answer to this. There are several possible theories. All of them seem to make sense, so it is inconclusive. But I just want to offer one viewpoint on it, which I personally believe it's right. Obviously, it's a biased opinion. Obviously, there's so many different theories, like I said, but just to look at the Dragon description versus the Jade description very quickly. I know you guys have already seen this, but the Dragon says all the weapons in the series have an upgraded firepower. They also have a 25% extra range, so they're going to have increased damage and they're going to have 25% extra range. Pretty simple. And, that's reflected in the stats. It's simple in that sense. The Jade says all the weapons from this series have an upgraded firepower. Also, the weapon damage decreasing point will be 25% farther. So the damage decreasing point is not reflected in the stats, clearly. So we can only speculate on how exactly that works, and we don't really know until somebody from Gameville or Digital Legends would, officially confirm that. But the upgraded firepower, they're going to have the same damage increase as the Dragon series. So let me bring up a little graph I made here. All right, so we are looking at this crazy graph that I made. Don't get scared away or anything, but I basically, let me clean it up a little bit for you guys. We have damage per second on the vertical axis and range on the horizontal axis. Obviously, lower range is on the left side, higher range is on the right side, and damage per second, low on the low side and high, on the top. So hopefully that's straightforward enough. And then we made these assumptions up here just for the sake of simplicity. This could get, it's really not that complicated. Just I don't really know how to explain it without making it complicated. So for the sake of simplicity, we're going to assume that damage per second, aka DPS, is a combination of damage, rate of fire, accuracy, stability, ammo, and reload. So those are all of the other stats aside from range, I believe. And obviously portability is not going to be part of what we assume is the damage afflicting algorithm, I guess we'll call it. And so all of these things put together, basically, in some sort of mathematical formula, could potentially make up the damage per second. And we're just going to assume that's the case because it's a lot easier to just visualize one number, damage per second, across the range, right? And so we're going to also assume that a weapon does constant damage per second until its damage drop-off point, which kind of makes sense. Just the fact that they mentioned a damage drop-off point, it seems to make sense, right? Like a damage drop-off point, the words literally say that's the point when damage starts to drop off. So I think it's logical. I'm not going to say it's the only reasonable solution, but it is logical to assume that a weapon does constant damage until the drop-off point. So here we're going to look at a normal weapon. This is any given weapon. There's no numbers in here. I could, if I wanted to get crazy, I could add numbers just for more context. I could use the real stats of real weapons, but the point is just to visualize here in a graph format. And I know a lot of you are probably like, you just look at the graph and you understand, but, just for the sake of trying to explain it. So this is a normal weapon, right? We're assuming it does constant damage per second until the damage drop-off point. So this red line is the damage drop-off point for the given weapon. So a normal weapon does constant damage until that point, right? And that point is somewhere within the total range, right? So we're assuming within the total range, the total range of the weapon is the range that the weapon can do damage in. And so once we hit the damage drop-off point, damage slowly decreases until we get to the total range, at which point it does 0 damage beyond the total range of the weapon. Hopefully that's straightforward enough. And so I drew them as curves here. They could be straight lines. We don't we don't really know. I could show you the difference with this. A straight line might make these a lot different, just in terms of visualization, but ultimately it's the same theory. So we're just going to leave them curved for now. Just just presenting one viewpoint. There could be so much variance here, and maybe I'm making it more complicated than it is. Maybe it's literally as simple as multiplying one number by 25%, but I doubt that's the case. And so that's a normal weapon. That's the damage per second graph across range, with respect to range. And so now we have a dragon weapon. We're assuming it's a dragon weapon of the same, it's just the dragon skin of this normal weapon. And so this blue bar here is 25% of the total range of the normal weapon. And if you saw these red boxes, I basically drew a rectangle across the total range, and pretty basic math. If you draw an X through a rectangle, you find the center point. And so I found this center line here. That's 50% of the total range for the weapon. Then I drew another X across here, effectively finding the center point of 50%, which would be 25%, right? So this line, divides this 50% section into 25% sections. And so from here to here is 25%. And so this blue bar is 25% of the total range of our normal weapon. Hopefully that made sense. And so at the total range of the weapon, this line here, we added that 25%, which the Dragon edition does. And so we're going to do damage up until that point. Once we hit that point, we no longer do damage, right? But assuming there's a damage drop-off point, which the Jade weapon kind of, cues us into, we're going to assume that the damage starts dropping off at the same drop-off point as the normal weapon. And so we do the same, we don't do the same. We do constant damage along here, just like the normal weapon. Obviously, the skinned versions also have an increase in damage, so this is going to be higher than this, but it's still constant. And then once we hit the damage drop-off point, we start to decline. And the only difference is that this decline goes for a longer range as opposed to this decline, right? And so I made this overlay to compare. Let's do this. So it's just a little bit more transparent, version of the graph. And so, if we overlay this, it's, obviously this is very rough, but, you have your normal, you can kind of see the black bar, and then you see the dragon, the red bar. And so you're gaining all of this area here. You're gaining all of that effective damage, right? So maybe that makes a little sense. And obviously, to show the boost in damage, it might be something like this, the normal's down here, then the dragon with boosted damage is up here, but, it's all got to end, at this spot, right? So, this isn't exact by any means, just providing a possible visualization. I know I'm dragging on, a lot of people probably get it already, but then just to show you the Jade weapon, we have constant damage per second until the damage drop-off point, but the description of the Jade weapon is that the damage drop-off point is increased by 25%. And back to our very crude red box with the X's through it, I did this from 0 range to the damage drop-off point, and drew an X through it, found the center point, which is 50% of the 50% to the damage drop-off point. Then we did the same thing, made another X. You can kind of see it there. It's a little jumbled together, but that is halfway of 50%. So from here to here, that is 25%, which is the same length as this blue bar. So this blue bar is 25% of the damage drop-off point. And get rid of that red box. And so we maintained our constant damage per second until 1.25 times the damage drop-off point, right? So we're at a constant damage per second up until here, as opposed to dropping off here, dropping off here. We are now dropping off here. So the damage drop-off point has increased by 25%. And since the total range is the same, once we hit our total range for that weapon, which is the same as the normal addition, we no longer do damage past that point. And so you can see a clear difference between the Dragon and Jade weapons. Once again, this is a theory. This is not confirmed by any means. This is just my viewpoint on it, what I think is the case, what seems to make sense. There could totally be an argument that the Dragon and Jade weapons are the complete same thing. We don't know, but that would be a huge slap in the face, basically, to have an AC-30 Dragon and an AC-30 Jade. Like, that's just a slap in the face if they're the same thing. It could be true, but this is just an idea, and it shows a clear difference. And so just to finish off this Jade, once we hit this damage drop-off point, then we have a faster decline, but we stop at the normal range of the weapon, right? And so back to our little overlay compare here. If this doesn't make you dizzy, then I don't know. You got some skills, but let me line this up a little bit. So, very, very crude once again. But if you look at this red line, this is the Dragon weapon, overlaid with the Jade weapon. And you can see that the Jade weapon will do more damage here. This is, a poor example. A better drawn example would have, it could have, this could be skewed a lot of ways. Once again, there's so much more detail I could go into, and I'm not a math genius by any means. So, I'm probably terrible at explaining any of this or the actual algorithm behind it. But, Jade weapon might have this gap. So in this case, the Jade weapon does more damage, right? But then this Dragon weapon goes on farther and is able to do damage. It's not a high amount of damage, but it still does damage at this farther range. So, I think this little box right here is the difference between Jade and Dragon weapons. I know it's a very, very crude drawing. If I line these up better, and this will be like the last point of the video here, try to wrap it up. And then I'm going to go here and let me get a color. I don't think you can see everything if I set up my screen recorder right, but I'm doing some color selecting, tool selecting here behind the scenes. So if we imagine these as straight lines, that is the Dragon line, and then this is the Jade line. And so there you can see the difference. Let me get a nice yellow, not nice, but a yellow. So this little box here, triangle, is where the Dragon is going to have the advantage, right? And then this box here is where the Jade is going to have the advantage. And so, these lines, these graphs could be, extended horizontally, vertically, whatever, which could make these seem, bigger, smaller, whatever. Don't let the sizes, don't take the size as any real calculation or real difference. All I'm showing is, this relationship of the difference. Jade weapons are better here. Dragon weapons are better here. And to sum this up here, get into 15 minutes, basically what it comes down to, in my opinion, once again, strictly an opinion, is that the Jade weapon, the Jade skin, Jade weapons are better with a weapon that already has good range, and that's very subjective. That can vary from weapon to weapon, and the Dragon skin is better for weapons that kind of, really need more range, and this could kind of start to complicate the whole thing again. But in my opinion, I think the A500, the A500 and the, the FM Bobcat, I think the Jade version is going to be better for the A500 and the FM Bobcat. Just an opinion, strictly an opinion. There's no, basis other than, taking this visualization into consideration and just, my experience in the game. And then, for the dragon skin, I think, probably the far end dragon is going to be better than the far end jade. Nox K dragon might be better than the Nox K jade. AKSG12 dragon probably better than the AKSG12 jade. Just some examples, in my opinion. This is just a theory on how the jade could differ from the dragon, and I think it depends on the specific weapon, which one is better. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. And I guess just to add one more point, the jade skins seem to be a bit more rare. Like I've seen several FM Bobcat dragons, and I have not seen anyone with the FM Bobcat Jade, and same with the A500. And I'm not saying like a Nox K Jade is more rare than a Nox K Dragon, because the dragon might be better, but I think it's clear that the A500 Jade is more rare than the dragon. The FM Bobcat Jade is more rare than the dragon. And once again, that's just a theory. There's really no way to prove it, unless the devs or Gameville comment something. But in theory, the best guns should be the most rare. And so, if the less something is found, it's more likely to be better. It's not always the case, but, it's usually along those lines. And, that just kind of coincides with my theory that for weapons that already have, good range within their, how they're used in the game, that the jade skin is better, whereas weapons that really need more range, the dragon skin is better. So, hopefully that makes sense. I'll leave it at that. Hopefully this did something for you. I know I went on way too long. I know it's a complete mess. This is, quite the drawing here, but, just wanted to provide one viewpoint on it. So hopefully you got something out of it. And I know this is one of the most highly requested videos on the new series, the difference between the dragon and jade weapons. So I think that'll do it. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I'll have, this isn't gameplay or anything, so I'll have more gameplay coming up. Don't worry on that. But I know a lot of you guys are interested on this, so I wanted to post it, get my thoughts out there. So thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will catch you on the next video.